To the most astute of you, or even those who even slightly care about educating yourselves and have watched my other lectures, you most likely remember me mentioning a certain group of people in one of my other videos. I only mentioned them briefly and only as a joke, as the pull that this group has is frankly quite scary. I decided to wait until now because, one, I first needed to explain to y'all how politics worked, and thirdly because I needed a big enough following, capable of taking on governments and corporations when the need arises. Well, the need has arisen, and just know that when it comes out that I died a mysterious death, that it was because of what was revealed in this anthology of videos, and that when I go out, it'll be as a martyr. All that being said, let's get started about this talk on the Do people and their group colloquially referred to as Big Do. A small disclaimer, just know that this is from the standpoint of an American, as it is still being disputed in the scientific community whether or not other countries truly exist. And since we lack the proper technologies to find out, I'll only work with what is generally known as fact. But on with the point. It's usually taught that when George D. Washington executed Adolf D. Hitler in the mid-1920s, it opened the floodgates for his policies to take hold, as his main political rival was temporarily incapacitated. What usually is not taught, however, is what those policies were exactly, as it's generally agreed upon that whatever they were formed the mold for what the country would be in the future and is today, inventing things such as inches, freedom, and corporations. For better or worse, the advent of companies and businesses allowed humanity to finally break through the 1920s that they had been trapped in for the past 10 years, give or take, and finally a new set of years, the 30s, was discovered. Americans were initially confused as to what that meant for society, but with the sudden advancements in technology that happened, it didn't take people too long to figure out what to do, and this is where it all began. The first hint of Big Do's hold on society came in 1932 with a big name on TV that you all may be familiar with from his famous quote, "I'm strong all the way through 'cause I drinks Mountain Dew, I'm Popeye the Sailor Man." Now at the time, people were generally confused as to what Mountain Dew even was, as it wasn't introduced to the public and wouldn't be until 1940, but there was just no way to even know how long it would be until then. So for the next couple of decades, people theorized about what Mountain Dew truly was, and why it seemed to give the person who drank it minor increases in strength, speed, and endurance. The combined efforts of humanity to solve this drove science to such a height that within 10 years the people were able to move on to the 1940s. When it became generally agreed upon as to what the liquid was. This, however, was all part of Big Do's plans to get to 1940, as just before the papers revealing what Popeye the Sailor Man was drinking, the Do people, under the guise of PepsiCo, released a drink called Mountain Dew. This calculated ploy by Big Do upset many Americans, causing riots and resulted in the Boston Massacre. President at the time, Franklin D. Roosevelt, needed a way to calm his rioting people and saw that there was a small scuffle going on overseas. Thinking that this would be a great place for Americans to blow off some steam, he decided to send Americans over to help with the dispute, and was met with universal praise and resounding patriotism. This, however, was also part of Big Do's plot, as with American soldiers now shipped overseas, they could now make their move. And the first thing they did was reveal that Adolf D. Hitler was still alive and was now starting a war on such a scale that the only way to properly describe it would be to call it a Great War. But there was already a Great War, so they settled on Greater War. The people were shocked to see Hitler still alive after his public execution, but they started to notice, just as some of you viewers may have noticed, something about all the famous figures that have been named up till now. Yes, that's right, all these people have had D as their middle name, commonly known as the Will of D, and is a clear indicator of one's association with the Do people. So from the very start, they had society in their clutches, molding and shaping it to fit their will. But it goes much, much deeper than that. The current year is 2023 AD. At this point, what do you suppose AD stands for? That's right, after Do. This brings me back to my most important and final point on how we take the world back. To start, we must... What is this? Who are you?